we're going to have a merger of two traditionally very large traditional media conglomerates and media brands. And so we're seeing the number of media voices we have in our system getting smaller. My name is Matt McAllister. I'm a professor in the Department of Film Production and Media Studies at Penn State. One of the prime assets that look to be sellable is Warner Brothers Discovery. And of course, that organization has its roots in the history of film. It was one of the 5 big majors in the early development of the studio system, and it looked to be available for sale. And one of its key suitors was Netflix, which of course is one of the new wave of media companies, obviously a big streaming service. But a competing deal was through Paramount Skydance, which is again which also has its roots in one of the big 5 film companies from really the 19-teens. And it looked for a while that Netflix was going to win, but then the Paramount Skydance deal was ultimately the one accepted by Warner Brothers Discovery. And what we're seeing is a control of a lot of our different media content and media distribution systems. And this includes in film and television and comics and video games and news. And we're seeing the number of voices or the number of owners shrinking. And this is a pretty big merger of what used to be 2 separate competitors with each other, but now they're going to be together. It was only a few years ago that Disney bought 20th Century Fox. And that was also a similar merger of what was 2 pretty dominant motion picture brands who also had a lot of involvement in television and other industries. And, before that, we saw actually Warner Brothers, merging with AT&T. And before that, Warner Brothers merging with America Online. And we've seen this sort of thing happen in the digital world too, like Google and YouTube merging. So it's not a completely new thing, but this was a very high profile merger of, again, 2 players, which not that long ago would have been contenders for the largest media conglomerates in the world, definitely in the top 5, 6, 7. And now they're merging together and they're going to make 2 into a bigger one. There has to be certain evaluation of the antitrust implications of this. And of course, the Justice Department will have approval of this. It seems likely that at least the basic framework will be approved, but there might be like particular conditions or something the government might put on it. But just given the signals and the connections that some of the key players have had with the current administration, it doesn't seem likely that it'll get completely stopped. So it'll be a while. These mergers take a long time to go through the various regulatory hoops and the specific mechanisms to merge them. So we'll see what this means for consumers. It's very likely that this is going to lead to some of these major brands merging. And really, when you look at these 2 corporations, they have several things that could combine in, like, with similar content or similar demographics. And one of the biggest is what's going to happen to the streaming services. So on one hand, you've got Warner Discovery that has HBO Max, and on the other hand, you've got Paramount that has Paramount Plus. And so are those 2 streaming services going to merge? And what does that mean for fees? What does that mean for availability of content? What does it mean for the brand of those companies? All of that kind of thing still to be worked out. They both control major journalistic outlets. Paramount, Skydance, they own CBS News. And, it does seem like that since Paramount and Skydance merged, that the corporation has a bit of a heavy hand with how CBS News operates. Is that going to happen with CNN, which is the news outlet that Warner Discovery controls? What does this mean for the vibrancy of United States journalism, but even world journalism, because these are two global brands, especially CNN. What does this mean moving forward? Are we going to have less people working in our news? Are we going to have less news? Are we going to have less autonomy in our news? And those are questions that are very important. And I think it's legitimate to keep an eye on what's going on. And I think news watchdogs are going to be attuned to what are going to be the journalistic decisions made by this new, even bigger media corporation. What does this mean for the fate of DC? Because Warner Discovery, they own all of the DC brands and superheroes, and DC Entertainment just kind of restructured with James Gunn. And so what is going to be the future of that plan, and how will that merge with the Paramount culture and climate and financial incentives? So there's a lot of questions about what this means for diversity of content and consumer choice, consumer pricing, and also the labor of people who work in entertainment. Are people going to lose their jobs over this merging? Still a lot of questions to be asked.